Every scene you're about to witness has been meticulously recreated to reveal, for the first time, the true face of one of history's deadliest engineering projects. 1869. The East River separates two rival cities, New York and Brooklyn. Between them, turbulent waters, treacherous currents, and a 78-foot deep abyss. Unexplored territory that would become an underwater graveyard. America's Gilded Age was just beginning. Tycoons built empires, immigrants arrived by the thousands, and a German visionary named John Augustus Roebling presented the world with an impossible idea. A bridge suspended by steel cables that would connect Manhattan and Brooklyn, spanning more than 1,800 feet across the East River. But no one imagined the true price of this ambition. Within 3 weeks of the project's start, the creator himself would be dead, his son paralyzed, and more than 20 men would find death in the pressurized depths of pneumatic caissons, underwater chambers where the pressure was so intense that the human body simply collapsed. This is the story that was never fully told. June 1869. John Roebling, at 63, stands at Fulton Ferry Dock, taking measurements for the project of his lifetime. He is America's most respected engineer, inventor of steel cable suspension bridges, builder of monumental works. But in a moment of carelessness, a ferry docks violently against the pier where he stands. His feet become trapped between the wood and the iron hull of the boat. His toes are instantly crushed. The amputation is performed without anesthesia, common practice of the era, but the wound becomes infected, tetanus. In 3 weeks, John Roebling is dead, victim of agonizing convulsions, unable to speak or swallow. The project that should have been his masterpiece becomes his tombstone. His 32-year-old son, Washington Roebling, a trained engineer and Civil War veteran, takes command. He knows every detail of his father's design. He studied the bridges of Europe. He's ready. But nothing could prepare him for what would come from the depths. Construction must begin in the only place where no man had ever worked, on the riverbed, dozens of feet below the surface, in total darkness. May 1870. On the Brooklyn side, a monstrous structure is towed into position. A pneumatic caisson, a chamber of wood and iron the size of 4 tennis courts, 15 feet tall. The concept is revolutionary and terrifying. Pump compressed air inside the chamber to expel water, allowing men to work at the river bottom, excavating rock and mud to create the foundations for the granite towers. Inside, it's an alien world. Air pressure is 35 pounds per square inch, nearly 3 times normal atmospheric pressure. Oil candles create a ghostly, toxic light. Temperature exceeds 90 degrees. Sweat pours in torrents. The workers, mostly Irish and German immigrants earning $2 a day, descend through a narrow shaft where compressed air creates a deafening sound in their ears. Some faint before even reaching the bottom. Down there they dig. Pickaxes against rock, shovels against mud, 8-hour shifts, 6 days a week, 112 men during the day, 40 at night. And then the symptoms begin. Upon returning to the surface, strong, healthy men double over in pain. Some can no longer feel their legs. Others scream, clutching their arms, feeling as if needles of fire pierce their veins. Some drop dead the moment they reach the surface. Doctors have no name for it. Workers call it the trembles or caisson paralysis. Today we know decompression sickness, the bends. Nitrogen bubbles forming in the blood, blocking vessels, destroying nerves, killing tissue. Washington Roebling knows the danger. He studies each case. He implements shorter shifts, but the pressure must increase. They're going deeper. On the New York side, the caisson descends to 78 feet. Pressure now is deadly, over 50 pounds per square inch. Cases multiply. 110 men affected, 20 dead. And in May 1872, during a routine inspection inside the New York caisson, Washington Roebling surfaces and collapses. He would never walk normally again. Washington Roebling is bedridden, partial paralysis, chronic pain, debilitated vision. Doctors say he won't live long. Tammany Hall politicians want to replace him. America's most expensive project, $15 million invested, equivalent to $400 million today, is on the verge of collapse. It's at this moment that a 29-year-old woman with no formal engineering training steps forward. Emily Warren Roebling, Washington's wife, daughter of a Civil War general, educated, determined, invisible to the public eye. But over the next 11 years, Emily would become the eyes, ears, voice, and legs of Washington Roebling. She studies advanced mathematics, structural calculus, materials strength analysis, learns about catenary curves, the suspension curves of cables, masters the technical specifications of the 14,560 miles of wire that need to be woven. Each morning, she receives detailed instructions from Washington in his room, and then rides to the construction site through Brooklyn's muddy streets to meet with assistant engineers, contractors, suppliers. The men underestimate her until they realize she understands every technical detail better than they do. Emily negotiates contracts, resolves disputes, inspects the work. And when problems arise, and they do, it's she who confronts them. 1877, construction of the main cables is underway. 4 massive cables, each 15.75 inches in diameter, made of thousands of individual wires that must be woven with millimetric precision. The supply contract was given to J. Lloyd Hay, an industrialist with political connections. And then Emily discovers the fraud. July 1878. Emily examines quality inspection reports. Something is wrong. Wire samples are failing tension tests. The steel should withstand 160,000 pounds per square inch. Some wires barely reach 50,000. She investigates and discovers that J. Lloyd Hay, for 6 months, systematically replaced high-quality wire with defective, cheap wire, pocketing the difference, over $300,000. A fortune. The wire is already woven into the cables, thousands of pounds of it. And the cables will support the weight of thousands of people. Hay is confronted. He denies, then admits, then threatens lawsuits. Emily and Washington make a bold decision. Instead of dismantling everything, they'll add 150 extra tons of quality wire to the cables, enough to compensate for the fraud and still guarantee a safety margin 6 times higher than necessary. Hay is forced to pay for the additional wire, but he isn't fired. Politics and influence protect him. The bridge will continue, but trust is broken. And Emily knows she must prove to the world that this bridge is safe, because when it opens, she will be the first person to cross it. While the scandal simmers, the towers continue rising. 2 fortresses of granite and limestone, each 276 feet tall, taller than any structure in Brooklyn and most of Manhattan. Their Gothic arches are inspired by medieval European cathedrals. Each granite block weighs tons. It's hoisted by steam-powered cranes, positioned with millimetric precision by master masons, many of them Italian immigrants who brought ancestral techniques from the Old World. By 1876, the towers are complete, and for the first time, people can visualize the project's magnitude. Now comes the most spectacular part, the cable weaving. A light guide wire is pulled across the river by a small steamboat. Then, using a pulley system, steel wires begin to be woven, one at a time, going back and forth between Brooklyn and Manhattan. It's a ballet of engineering. Hundreds of men working in sync, 100 feet above the river with no safety nets. Falls are common, deaths too. But slowly, over months, the cables take shape. 4 steel giants, each strong enough to suspend the weight of an entire city. And then finally, the bridge deck is installed. Yellow pine wood, steel beams, suspenders descending from the main cables. The bridge is almost ready. May 24th, 1883. 14 years after John Roebling's death, 13 years of brutal work, 27 lives lost in construction. Opening day. President Chester A. Arthur is present, the governor of New York, the mayor of Brooklyn, 14,000 guests, and the first person to officially cross the bridge carrying a live rooster as a symbol of victory is Emily Warren Roebling. Washington watches from a window in his Columbia Heights apartment through binoculars across the river. He would never be strong enough to be there personally. But the bridge stands, the world's largest suspension bridge. 1,595-foot main span, more than double any other. The first to use steel cables, an engineering triumph. On the first day, 50,000 people cross on foot. A week later, on May 30, crowds filled the bridge to watch fireworks. Suddenly, someone shouts that the bridge is falling. Panic, stampede. 27 people die crushed in the confusion, mostly women and children. The bridge wasn't falling. It was solid, but the fear was real. It would take years for the public to fully trust the structure. The Brooklyn Bridge would remain the world's largest suspension bridge for 20 years. Today, more than 140 years after its opening, it still stands, a testament to John Roebling's genius, Washington Roebling's resilience, and Emily Warren Roebling's determination. But its true legacy goes beyond engineering. This bridge was built with the blood of immigrants, with the broken bodies of men who descended into the depths without knowing they would never walk again, with the sacrifice of a woman who had to fight to be recognized in a world that didn't believe women could be engineers. The bridge's dedication plaque lists dozens of names: politicians, financiers, administrators. For decades, Emily Warren Roebling's name appeared nowhere. Only in 1951, almost 70 years after the opening, was a plaque installed acknowledging her contributions. Today, when you cross the Brooklyn Bridge, whether on foot, by bicycle, or by car, you're walking over the work of thousands of anonymous men who risked and lost their lives. You're crossing the vision of a father killed by his own creation. You're crossing the resilience of a son who sacrificed his health. And you're following in the footsteps of a woman who refused to disappear into the shadows of history. The Brooklyn Bridge is not just a structure of steel and granite. It's a monument to the human cost of progress, and a reminder that behind every monumental work there are stories of courage, tragedy, and sacrifice that the world never saw until now.